Peter? You ready? You're roaring?
Just keep swimming, baby. Let's go.
All right. All right. Welcome back, everybody. This is episode number 17 of the You Should Fact Check This podcast. And today is a special day. We have our very first guest.
Wow, this is
our first. You're our first guest.
Wow, that's
Dylan Chant,
that's
and
an
he should
honor.
pull the mic in just a little bit tighter.
A little tighter.
Yeah. That's great. But yes.
How's my
Dylan,
mic sound? My mic sound good?
Peter, your mic always sounds
All right.
okay.
I'm still here.
Quite frankly.
Sounds okay.
But Dylan is one of my longest timed buddies. That's one of the worst sentences I've ever said. But me and Dylan have been friends for a long time.
Common New Mexico phrase.
Yeah, longest time buddies.
Yeah.
But he's been out in California doing film stuff. Yeah, working on documentaries, trying to make his way in the business out in LA. And, you know, we might have some questions about that. And we might get some answers about that. I know that Peter is rip-roaring ready to go, as usual.
Focused.
He's chewing on our so-called sponsor, Chipotle.
And then
And-
I am recovering from my other sponsor, Sky Vodka.
Peter had a fun night last night, huh?
Dude.
Was it a
From
good wedding?
It was a great wedding.
Yeah?
From like 3 o'clock to my last drink was like at 11:30. I counted, I had 11 shots, which is a lot
That's
for me.
crazy for
That's
Peter.
hot.
That's
Is
crazy
more.
for Peter.
That's more shots than I've had in the last year combined, probably.
How is it spread out?
Well,
The worst. I can hear him chewing.
We went like 3 o'clock, shot of tequila, and then probably like between 5 and 7, I had like 7 shots,
Okay.
and then
The worst
Whatever
story
the-
ever.
So it
Whatever
wasn't like
the-
it wasn't like all, just like a
it wasn't like a shot an
Short
hour.
time
And
period.
It was
it
spread
wasn't
out.
like, yeah.
good.
I was maintaining a good level throughout.
Did
the
you
whole night.
have other drinks outside of that or just shots?
No, I say shots, but it was like whiskey on the rocks or stuff like that.
Oh, okay. So just a very different thing, huh?
when you mix.
You're sipping, right? You're not shooting. it.
Yeah. That's
Okay. So he's having sips of hard liquor.
Sips of hard liquor.
But it was
But
a
it's
good
still
wedding, huh?
considered shots.
I guess. I don't know. I don't drink a lot.
You never drank.
Yeah, you're right.
That's actually true. Have you had a shot of, I don't know, just like you've probably tasted something at this point.
No. I haven't.
You haven't tasted anything?
No. The only time I tasted something was when I was 8 and my dad handed me a beer. And I tasted it and I spit it out. And he said, "It's gross, huh?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Never drink it."
Well, that would
Stuck with me to this day.
Well, that's a good thing. Drinking is,
It's the devil's liquor, which, it's liquor. So
well, we used to, like in high school, the two of us basically on the soccer team, we never
I was a loser. So,
dude, senior year.
well, all I did was, I think I was relatively liked within our school, but
Well, senior year is different. We won state. Like I feel like we had more of a, I don't know, like our school was tiny. Like
right. So I knew everybody. I didn't
Yeah.
have there was no reason for me. Like, I didn't care. I wore those stupid blue. Do you remember those blue sweats that I used to wear all the time?
yeah,
And then sometimes I would wear the blue sweatshirt
yeah.
and I would look like a giant blue dildo.
You still
And then-
do.
And then I would pull them up above my knees, the sweats.
Yes.
And then I would walk around.
With the red Nikes.
Yeah.
Nike
Yeah.
shoes.
I had been with those people for so long, I did not care.
Yeah, but I'm saying that like people didn't really like you weren't a freaking loser
No.
compared to like we had,
We didn't really have that many. Like we all knew everybody.
Yeah, like and by senior year we had that one party after state, and we like it was
Which
at,
I left immediately.
yeah.
And I came back and got the trophy.
But yeah, I don't. It was just interesting. We never. It was like I feel like it was just the two of us. Because I was.
Well, we talked about it today a little bit. Like all we wanted to do was go take pictures, go off roading, go like we wanted to go do things, not party necessarily.
Well, and also at the parties we were too much of the life of the party that we.
Yeah, we were
it.
too much fun at the parties.
Yeah.
I already know it's not true.
Peter, you were a big partier in high school, huh?
Towards the end, and then
Or is
summer
everybody
after
in
high
Montana? Like, is it
No.
just because it's Montana and it's always cold?
school. You're literally from Albuquerque, where it's Albuquerque and it's always hot.
Yeah, towards the end, you were a big partier
Yeah,
after you got hurt.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What exactly? You tore your
Labrum.
left or right?
That one was my left.
And so when you tore that, did you? Because you were already committed, right?
No, I wasn't committed anywhere.
Or were you You were talking with?
I was about like I had pretty decent prospects in Mesa and Seattle U.
And they
But
both dropped you
then-
after you got hurt, right?
Yeah, and then I went to Carroll because I had nowhere else to go.
Right.
So I had to go to Carroll. Yeah,
And then you made your way to the fort.
that is what happened.
Well, all of that's to say that I don't think any of us are real big partiers.
No.
Peter went through a little bit of a phase.
Freshman year of college.
Did you go
'Cause
through?
I
Dude,
wa-
I saw a picture of you on Instagram. Dylan looked like he had been lost in a weird type of partying. Like you had long hair, you had a real loose shirt on.
Wait, which?
I don't know, but you had a loose shirt on, and I don't think you weren't clean shaven.
Let yourself go.
No, I
think
remember-
you may have had some feathers in your hair.
No, are you talking? There's some like I don't know if you guys had this, but we had this thing called an undie run at Chapman, and it is what it sounds like. And you
went to
go
Chapman?
out, huh?
You went to Chapman
Yeah,
in California?
yeah.
I had a friend that went to Chapman. You know Mari Lundeen?
What's his name?
Her name, Mari Lundeen.
No.
Never
Was
mind.
he? What was his major?
It was a girl.
Oh, Mari.
Peter didn't.
Yeah.
Mari.
Dylan didn't talk with many of those.
Isn't it a small school?
Okay.
Yeah, but he stuck mainly to the guys.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Just kidding.
It's fine. No judgment, man. It's totally cool.
Come on. That's not a bad thing.
Whatever you need to do. Whatever you need to do.
Yeah. Did you know Mari?
No.
Peter didn't know. I mean, Jesus Christ. Dylan didn't
No,
know Mari.
I did know her.
I'm going to get you guys
Who
confused.
knew Mari? Who knew Mari out of us?
I'm going to get you guys confused constantly.
Anyway, undie run.
Yeah. So, yeah, but it's basically like a night where everyone goes out and you run around this. We had this thing called the circle. It was like this roundabout in the old town of Orange, which is where Chapman was, and everyone was just run in their underwear around, do one loop, and then police would kind of barricade off the street. They'd be like, all right, you're done for the night. No one was like arrested or like no one was actually like they didn't have to interfere or anything. But yeah, anyway, that night, freshman year, I had like, obviously, like I didn't drink in high school, so it was like anything I drank, my tolerance was so low, and I just had a night where it was basically after our finals for first semester, so it was like we're going off to Christmas, going home for Christmas break, and all I remember is running around in my underwear, and I had these lights wrapped around me, like it was like a little
One of the little
battery powered pack, and like all these like Christmas lights, and I had it all over my body, and then somebody at the party, they put a wig on me, a black wig with like.
That's where I got the feathers from.
I know. I knew what you were thinking of. So yeah, and then somebody took a picture of me. So I'm in my underwear with lights and a wig and a look of pure regret.
He looked like what you would describe as a free spirit.
Man,
Not a huge fan of free spirits.
Yeah, Peter doesn't like free spirits very much.
Well,
No.
I don't think Dylan's a free spirit. I think he may have had a free spirit evening.
yeah, I mean, it was, it was fun, and we came back but that picture is out there. So.
It's out there for the world to see. So if you want to see it, go look up Dylan Chant on Instagram and you can find it.
Yeah.
There's your shout out, Peter. I mean, Dylan. Oh my God, this is going to be a disaster.
Oh man.
Maybe I am drunk for the first time. So Dylan, I want to know, like, you've been living out in California now for 5 years?
Yeah, it's my 5th year.
It's your 5th year out there.
Mm-hmm.
And you've lived through the whole pandemic in California.
Oh, that sounds so terrible. Sorry,
Right.
Carry on.
So I'm interested to see, because Peter lived in Durango and in Montana during the pandemic, right? Yeah. I lived obviously here and in Colorado during the pandemic. Peter's the only one out of all of us who lived in a red state during the pandemic, right? Is Montana's a red state, right?
Yeah.
How restrictive was it during the pandemic?
So I was in Orange County, which is different than LA County, for the lockdown. And so, I mean, I don't know how different it was there, but basically, it was pretty restricted from the get-go, and it kind of continued like that.
Well, did people in California feel like it was being overly restricted, or was everybody on board?
I mean,
Because I feel like
no, not every, like, especially in Orange County, you've got like Huntington Beach, you've got Laguna Beach, a lot wealthier areas that, especially Huntington Beach, there were protests for masks constantly. That was like the notorious
really
area where it's like, especially during the height of the lockdown, everyone's like, oh, there's going to be people down in Huntington Beach, like protesting masks. And so I think like Orange County, which is where, Orange is, that's where Chapman was. I think that was a little more, in terms of the restrictions, people were against it more than if you go up to LA.
right.
LA is a little more, like, even now walking
It's got
around,
more of that
people
big
have
city
masks.
mentality.
Like, people just like have like I was saying, they just are walking down the street with masks still.
Right.
And yeah, it's just interesting. But if you go down to Orange County, I went down there for a film screening just recently, and no one was wearing a mask. So it's just interesting to see even that, like,
Right.
because California's huge. You're gonna have a huge
Diversity.
yeah,
of
like there are a
thought.
lot of different.
Yeah, I mean,
people.
in the grand scheme of, like, when everybody outside of California looks at California, it feels very blue. Like, very, especially like during the pandemic times. Obviously, there were tons of people who left California because they didn't like the restrictions.
Mhm.
So obviously, there weren't people who were on board with it.
Right.
But it felt like it was very, like, overly protective, overly shut down. Obviously, some of that is just to do with the government involved.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, I mean, how did it go with film and everything during that time?
I mean, when it first, I was in classes, or, I was a junior, I guess, when the lockdown actually started. And, I think I basically was able to, like, do some filming inside. No one could be on set. Chapman really locked things down because, no one knew what was going on. And so the only thing I really got to do is senior year. Even when we had that second wave, we were able to travel. We came back here and we filmed, and then we filmed in San Diego, and we filmed in LA, and that was less restrictive. But I'd say like in the height of the lockdown, I mean, no one could even get on a set or anything, which makes sense. Like people did not know what was going on, so the school's gonna take the
Right.
advice, I guess, of
Well, I mean, that was
what other people are doing.
that was me and Peter's school. They took similar steps. Fort Lewis was very restrictive
Yeah.
from the beginning. Like that was the college
Yeah.
thing was super restrictive.
Yeah.
And it was obviously like over the top in some situations.
Yeah.
But I think that, you know, me and you have had some disagreements in this front.
Well, yeah, especially
You and I, Devon.
Thank you, Peter. You know, he says 2 words and it's just shot straight to my heart.
I mean, do you guys think like right now for me, we just had this conversation a little just before we came here
Yeah.
about masks and the effectiveness of, you know, using a mask, thinking that, oh, you know, if I walk into a crowded room, like it'll protect me.
Yeah.
And I think my point of view is that, you know, I think with my my dad having lung condition, we were already, you know, like thinking about our dad, you know, just like, okay, we definitely want to be safe around him. And I think living in California too, even though I just talked about Orange County being a little less, like there are areas that in general, I'd say, yeah, like in California on the news, you're going to get a lot more like, this is horrible. Like, you know,
Right.
masks are the thing,
The saviors.
And so like at the time, yeah, I was really like, I believed in, you should wear a mask. Like it's not hard. Like that's not hard to do. Like you just wear a mask inside. We're in the height of a pandemic. Like I don't see how that's.
I didn't
hard to
agree.
do, you
I
know?
didn't disagree with that either. Like at the beginning, I was like, put a mask on. Like what's going to hurt? Like,
right.
Like what's going to happen? What's going to be the downside of just putting a mask on?
Right.
Right. Especially when it was 2 weeks to kill the curve, you know?
Mm.
And then it just continued progressing and, you know, all of that COVID malarkey that we're still like, it's awkwardly still in, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there are going to be cases.
Right. And the weirdest thing is day to day, none of us even think about it anymore.
I know. I almost think, I don't know about you guys, but do you think, I don't know if it makes sense, but when the lockdown came in and like everyone was freaking out about COVID, I feel like there's this natural tendency for people to kind of like almost want this like something to happen, you know, they're like, obviously don't want anything bad to happen to them.
No, dude, but
people, I feel like society almost is like, oh my God, we're jumping on, oh my God, this is horrible. Like, let's lock everything down. Let's change everything, you know? And I think it's important to, you know, like I really wanted to be safe. And like, I thought that was so important, but I also think at the same time, people really, I don't know, when things are, I guess, a little comfortable, and something comes up that's different, it's like, we tend to, especially now, it's like, it becomes this, oh, this is the end all, like, or this is like such a massive thing.
I mean, I remember at the very beginning of the pandemic, like even before it hit America, I talked with Peter and Charlie and Katie. We were all outside the gym at Fort Lewis in the parking lot. And I was like, dude, this is going to be really bad. Like, this is going to be seriously bad because we had just looked at what the numbers were, how fast it was like transmitting. In one of my classes, it's pretty much a statistics class. And I was like, this is going to be like super bad. And from there, like things started to progress. The media started talking about it more. Everybody started understanding what it meant. And then we were all like getting ready to leave for summer break or something like that because they canceled classes, right?
Spring break.
And then they canceled classes after that. But everybody, I remember we were all at Valentine at our house and we were outside talking and we were talking like it was the end of the fucking world, dude, like legitimately like the end of the fucking world. We were talking about like plans, like what we were going to do if this shit turned into like a zombie apocalypse. Like everybody was not going to get access to food. All of this, everything was going to fucking shut down and we were going to have to fend for ourselves. We were talking with our friends, like what the fuck, like what we would do. Like it was legitimately going to be the end of the world. And I think,
because that's how it was framed.
Right. It was for sure. There was a lot of framing around that. There was so much fear mongering involved in like the whole thing.
Like if you look at like hindsight, like they're not gonna. So if their main goal was to get the curve, whatever,
reduce
the curve, whatever. If that was the main goal, like you're not gonna tell 300 million people that we're gonna go into a lockdown. Just saying like, okay, hey guys, just trust us. Like we're gonna head into a lockdown right now. So you have to instill fear so that you can then control the narrative. So then you can basically coerce. I don't know. That's just.
Yeah. Well, there's so much like in any like mass
just hindsight
hysteria event.
There's no way to know that,
but
that's going on
for sure. But in any mass hysteria event, there's so much like, there's so many different ideas of what could be happening behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's not that many people actually calling the shots. And you're like, I mean, how hard would it be to get all of these people on board with the same narrative to control? You know what I mean? I don't think that that's too far-fetched to think about because there is such a few amount of people that are actually in charge of like the restrictions, what's happening. You got, just a small group of people making all these decisions for millions of people. And now we're talking about hindsight, looking back at it, there's a lot of steps that we could have taken that would have saved a lot of lives.
Yeah.
And granted, no one knows for sure what was happening. No one knew what was going on. No one knew exactly what the right thing to do was. But there were some things that just seemed obvious, right? Like, first off, me and Peter have talked about it before, coming on as the president of the United States and being like, hey, get fit right now. Like, go get fit. Like, no matter what, being fat is gonna put you at a disadvantage. Right? There was no talk about that. There was no talk about eating healthy. There was no talk about like taking vitamins from the mainstream media, from our government. That was not part of their narrative, right? You had to go to like alternative podcasts, like Joe Rogan, like different podcasts to find those narratives. Like take it under your own control. Everyone else's narrative was like, come to us. We'll tell you what to do. It's on us. Let us tell you what you need to do and just, be. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's when you get into that conspiratorial mind. It's like, oh, they just want to control us. They just want to tell us what to do. Whereas if they're like putting some of it on you, being like, go get fit, then it's harder to talk about those conspiracies because they're not trying to control everything. Do you know what I mean?
Which is why there's so many like big picture stuff. Like that's why we have such trouble with like big laws like abortion, gun rights, all that stuff is because there are certain people out there that are, you're the government, you need to fix it for us kind of deal.
Yeah.
Rather than just kind of like not fixing it. Because those two are a little different. But you know what I mean? That you're obviously just like relying on the government to make the rules and make the decisions for your everyday life.
Yeah, there's a lot of like sheep, people call them sheep.
Yeah.
Like following the leader mentality rather than like going out of your way to learn about what you need to do to keep yourself safe.
Yeah.
And then like continuing on that, like just pushing the narrative that, and I still see it today, dude. Every time I go to a gas station in New Mexico, there's a stupid fucking ad that pops up that's like talking about the vaccine. And they're like, the second booster is ready. It's safe, effective. And why would you have to say that it's safe and effective every 2 sentences if it's safe and effective?
So I actually have something on that. This is just probably very circumstantial.
Yeah.
But in the last like week or so, I have met, not met, but I know 3 women who are fully vaccinated. And I think all 3 of them have the booster as well. And they've been experiencing like insane vertigo and insane like insomnia with the vertigo. Ugh. Which is, I mean, obviously could just be circumstantial in terms of like who really knows with that stuff. But it's super interesting. 3 different people, none of them know each other to my knowledge. And then like each of their symptoms started like 6-7 months ago. And very interesting in terms of like, okay, if we look at what happened 6-7 months ago, like that usually means like, okay, it was probably happening for a month before you even saw symptom or like realized the symptoms. So like, okay, that's about the time when the booster came out ish, kind of. I don't know. Obviously this is super conspiracy and like coincidental and circumstantial,
yeah, I mean,
but I think that there's going to be a lot of going off that safe and effective thing. I think there's going to be a lot more stories like that. Like there's going to, because we've only had the vaccine for 2 years.
Yeah.
Year and a half.
Yeah. And I mean, going off your point, vaccines usually take years.
10 years.
6 to 10 years to like really, you're right. 10 years usually to really like test it.
Well, this is a place that me and you disagreed pretty early on, like when the vaccines were coming out. Like, have your views changed? Are you still in the like?
Well, I mean, my view still is that, look, like a pandemic. You know, we all entered a pandemic.
Yeah.
We've obviously never been through something like this, and I think we were able to get a vaccine really quick. And in my opinion, I think if you look at what it's done, it is effective. The vaccine has been effective. And I still think people should get vaccinated. I obviously don't think people should be forced to get vaccinated, but I think
in what context do you think that it was effective?
I think that, I mean, just like looking at,
because I haven't done any of the research, for sure.
Well, I mean,
Peter is probably a better person to talk to on this. He's probably done a little bit more research.
This is just my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah.
And maybe I should do more research on like the numbers, but I just think, although the vaccine took such a short time to develop, and I think there already are, like, these 3 women, like that might be some side effect from the vaccine, because every body's different. It's going to react to this vaccine differently. And I know that other stories where people with the first vaccine, they had like, that whole thing with, I think it was like blood clots.
Yeah, the J&J vaccine, the one that me and Peter have.
They pulled that off the market 2 days after my girlfriend got it.
Oh, man.
And I was like,
so you guys got it, the J&J, and then.
So I purposely got the J&J because that was a vector, and like I trust, like I'm not anti-vax. I trust vaccines in terms of like all the vaccinations we have to get for schools, stuff like that. I don't get a flu shot, just because like I get worse symptoms from the flu shot than I would
with
the actual flu. So it's like, I'm not gonna waste like a day or two. But So that's why I like purposely got the vector vaccine because it's the same sort of vaccine as like a flu shot, as a vaccine that has been around for so long. That
What
was
is
like
vector? That might be a stupid question, but
I
vector.
don't
Yeah.
know either.
that just means that they're basically,
It's like a dead.
no, they basically inject just like the tiniest amount of COVID into you or the disease into you so that your immune system can fight it off safely because it's just a tiny bit of amount.
Because it's an RNA.
Well, that's what he's saying. That one is
Right.
different.
Okay,
The other ones that
Are the
the new
RNA
ones, mRNA vaccines,
Yeah.
which is actually like slightly changing your DNA or
No,
what is-
I don't. I mean, I have no clue. It's not.
I'm gonna go with it.
good.
It's changing your DNA.
Fact check it. Fact check it.
Aren't all vaccines? But I think still, even all vaccines, they have some of the virus in it. That's just what a vaccine
I
is.
don't believe
really.
that that's what
The mRNA
vaccine-
doesn't. The mRNA doesn't. The vectors, the vaccine vectors, the vectors have the disease in them. That's what
the
vector
mRNA
means.
vaccine actually goes in and manipulates something in your body to be
Yeah.
able to be better at fighting off a
It's
certain
probably the
thing.
mRNA, the structure of the virus,
Yeah.
and your body maybe takes on the same.
You know what I love
mRNA,
about this
like-
conversation? Is that we're all really, really deep into biochem.
Yeah, we have no clue what biochem.
Yeah, people are gonna be like, oh man.
No, okay. So I was actually having this conversation with my mom the other day, because we disagree. Like, well, me and basically my whole family disagree on
Yeah.
everything COVID. But what was like your main, not purpose, but like, yeah, I guess what was your main reasoning behind getting the vaccine?
I mean,
And like, what was the most like advertised thing while you were about to get it?
I think, so I think with the vaccine, it was almost like I personally had gotten myself into, I mean, I was pretty worried about like, seeing family, like going back home basically.
Right.
Um,
I remember you came home and you had just gotten the vaccine.
what did I do? I got the vaccine.
I just remember, I know that you were wearing a mask around us for a long time when none of us were wearing masks at the house. Like my family kept it pretty casual.
Right.
Especially because it's hard. All of that was difficult for me. Like I was fine going into restaurants, going into shopping. When I'm at my house, if I'm having friends over, I'm like, we've got risks. You had more risk because you wanted to protect your family. So
Yeah.
I was super cool with you keeping a mask on. It came off quickly because they're not easy to communicate through, for sure,
Yeah.
especially if you're in an intimate setting. If you want to have an actual conversation, it's not the easiest thing to communicate through. So it didn't last. I mean, granted, you probably kept it on for a couple of days.
Yeah, I remember this, and I think like overall I had kind of, I think it was like a lot of people, you're trying to figure out, okay, well, what is the right thing? Should I wear a mask to, at the time I was like, maybe it really does. Like maybe having some type of mask or an N95, like being around people could really, I'm not letting out as many, I guess, particles from my mouth, and like maybe I'm not letting as much in. Maybe it'll remind me to stay a little further away from people. It was kind of like a thing with my family too, where I was like, I'm gonna wear a mask. I would leave the house.
I mean,
and it was kind of like that. And then
You were worried about it.
I was, yeah. I was one of the people that I was like, wash hands, like very, even, when I was, just like living in Orange, I was like all the time, just hand sanitizer, all that, and so I don't know. I think it's just a mix. It's my personality too. I think I am super cautious, like I like really, and like
Very cautious.
very cautious. I think a lot about, what I'm doing. And
You're also very conscious of what other people are thinking.
Yeah.
Like you just want to make sure that the people around you feel comfortable too.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that was part of it. I think going back to that moment though, I do remember like I think after a while I was like, oh man,
We're breathing the same air.
we are, and like there are moments where I was like forgetting to do all the right steps that I learned from
Right.
whatever, the rules were from the CDC. And so I was like, I don't know. I'm not going to be so scared with this thing. And also in a way, we weren't used to doing that. We weren't used to like having a mask and following all this. So yeah, I kind of just like,
Well, especially when it's difficult, I'm sure, when you have a hard ass like me who just like, I didn't want to let it control my life.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was trying to operate as normal as I possibly could. Like anywhere I didn't have to wear a mask, I wasn't.
Right.
And I was like kind of stretching the line there too. Like if I wasn't within any like 6 feet of anybody, I did not have a mask on. It didn't matter where I was, really. Right. I pulled it down. I was like, this is, and it's like the rebellious side of me that just was like, fuck this. Like, I don't want to be a part of this. Huh?
We were really bad at the mask thing.
Yeah, we were super bad at it.
Yeah.
And like, it was ridiculous because we were playing soccer. We're playing soccer outside with
with masks.
Well, dude, we're the best population to not worry about it, right? We're all super fit athletes. Not to say that there weren't super fit people who died, but there's not that many that like it really affected.
There were just a lot of. So I remember when I got the vaccine, like the main selling point from the media as to why you should get the vaccine is so that you wouldn't get COVID.
Right.
And so this is where I have an issue with the whole thing as a whole right now, is that they tell you, okay, if you get the vaccine, you won't get COVID. It's like, oh, back to normal. Okay, I'll get the vaccine. Sounds good. 3 months later, it's, looks like you can still get COVID. And I understand that this is like continuing science because it was still kind of a study. But so that was like, okay, whatever, like not a big deal anymore. Like, and then they just kept pushing the vaccination part, and they're just like, hey, you can still get it, you can still spread it. The only thing that the vaccine is going to help you do is
keep you from dying.
Keep you from dying, right? And that's like their main point now. And so then they're all saying this, and then they also say that like you got to get vaccinated to protect your fellow person, protect your fellow man, like protect your neighbor, that kind of thing. That's why you should get vaccinated, to protect other people. But that just contradicts what they're saying in terms of the biggest reason to get vaccinated is to protect yourself from hospitalization and further death and stuff like that. So I think that's where I had the biggest part with the vaccine and the whole COVID situation was that they would continually change and contradict themselves with what they said, and not necessarily coming out and saying like, hey, it would have been as simple as like, hey, this is we admit that we were wrong 3 months ago. We understand that like this age group is fit, like they're healthy. It is not really affecting them. Like they are definitely not mandated to get the vaccine. 'Cause like if you're a fit, healthy, like 20-year-old, like you're not you're probably have the same chance of dying from COVID as you do literally anything else that you could die from.
Well,
or less of a chance even.
I remember like this comes with the largest grain of salt, but I remember hearing a statistic that college students were more likely to die in the car ride on the way to campus than they were to die from COVID.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how realistic that is, but it seems pretty close to realistic, especially for that age group. Right?
Yeah.
Like we talk about how it was everyone who didn't want the vaccine was like, go get it for yourself. I'm going to make my own decisions. And then people who were like, no, you have to get the vaccine to protect me. I'm like, we let people drive cars. We don't have restrictions on cars where you have to do, like, some people have to blow a breathalyzer to get into a car because they fucked up so many times. But most people don't. Right? We let people drive these giant death machines always. And those people, those kill so many people. Like, at what point is it like, are we protecting people or are we just pushing a narrative? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think going off of that, I totally agree with like this. In hindsight, again, like I think looking at how this is all kind of played out, I think there is a lot that we won't know and we will never know about the decision making.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot was wrong. I don't think.
Well, here's a question for you. Do you think that there's a 0% chance that there was meddling involved in the COVID stuff?
A 0% chance?
The people at the top.
There's meddling with, like,
right.
There's just, there is, yes. And like, no, I don't believe that.
And it's like, what is he, a governor? Newsom?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing for Susana Martinez in New Mexico. Mm-hmm. Those people were absolutely irrelevant until the pandemic happened. Like, most people didn't really know who ran the state government, right? And then out of nowhere, the most important person for your business, for your daily life, for all of that was the governor. And now they get to tell everybody what to do. And as a politician, that is like, depending on what kind of politician you are, that is like primo, dude. That's like hell fucking yeah. It all falls on me. I get to make all the goddamn decisions. No. Because there's got to be some set of narcissism when you're wanting to be a politician.
I mean,
I feel that. I feel it.
I mean, look how politicians get into their positions. They have very wealthy campaigns, like
lobbyists.
You
all
have
sorts
to be
of.
in a way
Basically,
like
a popularity contest as well.
Yeah, and like in the end, it's not. It's hard, there's a lot of incentive when you're in these positions of power, obviously, to use things to gain an edge, to get reelected, to, it's a classic politician type thing that we've always talked about, which, it's like politicians just aren't in it really to really do much besides just keep going and like have that seat. And so this is going off on a tangent, but I just thought of this. So I remember when we did have that talk about the masks.
Mm-hmm.
It was we were at La Cumbre Brewery.
Were we?
Yeah, with Christine.
Yeah. I remember it being with. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that Devon and I basically like, we were like had conflicting points of view on, masks, because. And basically at that time, it was like, I think I was saying like, or no, it was also vaccinations too. And I was saying.
It was mainly the masks.
Yeah, I think
because we both got to the agreement that, like, I think that if you wanted to get the vaccine, you should get it.
Yeah. I think.
Because I don't think you were never about forcing people to get vaccines. You said you should get it to try and help, but you're not going to force people to get it, right?
Yeah, I don't think people should be forced to.
The word force should just not be used in terms of running a free country.
But we got into quite a disagreement about masks. And one statement that I remember is that I will not wear masks for the next 5 years. That is something I will not do. At some point, I will take it off and I won't care.
Right.
But I think both you and Christine disagreed with me on that. You guys both said, I'll wear it until they tell me not to wear it.
And this is what my tangent was going to be.
Right.
Is because, so I had a slight shift of perspective working on a project. And it was a film about UNICEF. And I was out in LA and I was an assistant
Can you
editor.
explain what UNICEF is?
Yeah, UNICEF is basically the United Nations Children's Emergency Fund. And it's basically created by the United Nations. It actually originally started as the what's the original name? I'll remember the original name, but it was created during the height of the war. I think it was World War I, where children were getting basically like, and I might need a fact check whether it was World War I or World War II.
We don't fact
anyway,
check on this class and on this podcast.
I totally am gonna go with the theme here and just disregard that. But I think, long story short, I worked on this doc and like, I think, UNICEF. It was basically like the story was UNICEF trying to ship vaccines to Ghana in Africa. And Ghana is like one of the more developed countries in Africa. It's actually the first independent country there. And I think a lot of people there were getting COVID, and they were starting to get their wave later than us.
Yeah.
And I think kind of working on that and seeing that, man, these people don't even have the chance to get a vaccine,
Right.
because they don't even have a vaccine.
Right.
And I think and these people, going back to the mask, these people, they did have masks, but they also didn't have that many masks either.
So how did that change your perspective on masks?
Because I was just like, you know what? If people are dying in another country too, and we have all the resources to, whatever, like, way we can prevent this, whatever.
We have all the money to throw at it, and we're still dying. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, it's like we have the resources to. We have a vaccine, we have masks, we have this research here in the U.S. and other countries don't have the ability to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, well, we don't want to wear a mask. And it's like, at the time, looking at what people were saying, it's like, wear a mask. It does at least help a little bit. It didn't solve everything, but that's why I was like, how is it hard to wear a mask when other people in other places in the world? I was looking at it more globally.
So
I was like,
so what you're saying is, while we were having that conversation, you had recently been working on that documentary.
yeah.
Okay.
That's
so you had
my perspective was
right. I thought you were saying that you had a perspective change after we had that conversation.
because I think I was
well,
like,
have your views changed since then?
yeah, they have. I mean, I even doing that, working with that, I think now, I mean, I do wear a mask in certain places. Like, I will wear a mask if I'm going to the airport. I just think,
How long do you plan on doing that?
I don't know. I mean, I think until I see, looking at like the numbers, and like having I don't want to say I'm like relying on the media, but it's like, what else?
So today, right? If you got sick, how are you testing?
How am I testing?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm probably just going to get a
At-home test?
Yeah. Just have like something Ubered or not Uber, but there's like this company called GoPuff or GoPuff, whatever those like delivery things.
So in Albuquerque, we would just go to the grocery store. We would buy one, right? But my question is, where's the media getting this information?
You're supposed to report it if you test positive.
Right, I understand, but I've tested multiple times over the past.
Right, and that's a really good point.
Like, how many people are legitimately reporting these cases? Where are they
I probably had COVID 2 weeks ago.
Right.
I didn't test.
I had COVID over winter break. Like, where are they getting these numbers on a daily basis? Like, that's crazy.
Very true.
Like to say that, dude, just the other day, New Mexico had 1,000 cases. I'm like, from who? Who's testing these people?
Yeah, my dad had COVID, and I was sick at the same time. He tested positive. I had completely different symptoms, and I did not test. And I don't think he reported. But there's also like a massive cold going around as well.
Right.
And there's also,
and I got that cold just 2 weeks ago.
I think that's the thing with masks is it definitely worked. It definitely, if you two were wearing a mask right now, it definitely works. You guys would both keep each other safe. Like that's just, yeah. It definitely worked. But
to what extent?
I think that's where I'm going next. I think we're gonna start to see some really scary stuff when it comes to. I think all of our immune systems are super weak after the last 2 years.
That's a really good point.
Because to have a strong immune system, you have to expose yourself. Yeah. So I have been sick more often,
dude,
in the last 6 months than I have
ever in my life.
Yeah,
me too. I've been sick like 4 or 5 times over the past.
It's like once a month.
7 months. Yeah,
it's like once a month right now, and it's crazy.
Pissing me off.
Yeah,
I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with me?
Yeah, it's crazy.
I didn't even change my lifestyle that much.
Yeah. So I think that's a huge issue. I think we're gonna see a massive psychological and social skill gap and issue with our next generation kids in like the 4, 5, 6, 7 toddler age. I think that there's going to be a massive issue in terms of not to the extent maybe to some, but like separation anxiety. Like you can't go anywhere without a mask because I see kids still wearing masks. I've seen kids cry over not having a mask. Like it has just been drilled into them that they have to have a mask. And it's like, what's going to happen when they're 14 and, like however you frame a child, 4, 5, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that's what their mentality is going to be. Unless like there's an event that changes that mentality. But, yeah, I think that like also social skills in like toddlers and, those people like, yeah, I mean, just you can go the social skill route of like they haven't seen lips, so like reading lips or like communicating, like that is tough. People are more comfortable remote communication these days than they are in person, face to face, which is like that is one of like the main health things that you learn in exercise science is like you have to have social interaction in order to be healthy. Like it's like exercise, nutrition, sleep, and like social like interaction is like one of the core values to having like a healthy psyche.
Right.
And I just and like I think it's gonna trickle down into like the schools because like let's all be honest, we were in college when they were in remote learning. How much did you actually learn the last 2 years that you were in college?
I mean,
I don't know if you guys are good remote learners, but I am garbage. I am a terrible remote learner.
I'm terrible at it too, and I had to help an 8-year-old through it, 7-year-old, and it was like, what are we doing here? These kids don't care.
Yeah. So what is? I think
there's going to be a lot of problems.
Masks were they were good. They were good. They're a good thing to do right off the bat. I think it was like a Hail Mary pass in football. Like you had to do something. You had to shut it down. You had to do something. I completely agreed with it then. You had to do it. I think everything that trickled after the first 3 or 4 months when we started to see evolution of science, I think that's where we made a lot of mistakes in terms of like keeping everyone locked down, trying to mandate things, canceling stuff. So. Well,
the beautiful thing is that now we live in a world where we don't have to think about COVID every second of every day. Mm-hmm. However, we just spent 30 minutes talking about COVID. Unfortunately, I think people are sick of it. So this may be our least listened to podcast. And that's saying a lot because we only get 2 listeners.
Yeah.
But let's move on from COVID because we've been on it for quite some time. Move on to something a little bit more topical. Topical just doesn't feel like the right word in this instance. It feels too happy-go-lucky, right?
We're going guns?
We're going guns.
There's another shooting today.
What?
And well, the media said it was a shooting.
That's
7
something
people.
That I don't
7
agree with.
people. Yeah,
It's
7
the
people
way they
or
portray shootings.
yeah,
They say 7
the
people-
headline. The headline is like 7 people injured in downtown Nashville, Tennessee shooting. Then you click on it and it says like police were in the area while multiple angles of gunfire were going on. So it's basically like a shootout in terms of like
It's like a turf war or something.
my mind goes straight to like gang violence or something like that.
Right.
Don't know much about Nashville, but I think portraying it, I think just saying 7 injured in a shooting right after what happened in Texas is like not the same thing. Not
it's
the same thing.
very it's just wave riding.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to be on the same like all these media places are trying to get their clicks, which sucks.
They got my click.
But that's very different. And I think that me and Peter have very similar thoughts on the gun control, how all of this portrays, like how all of this moves forward. We've never talked about gun control, gun laws. I'm interested.
Drum roll.
I'm interested in what your opinions are on gun control and on kind of what you see as a way of helping, right? How does America change from its current path? What are your with your extreme amount of knowledge in gun control law, as someone who really does a lot of research in this area?
You're an expert.
What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think, in my opinion, I mean, I've never owned a gun.
Yeah.
So it is hard for me to have a complete hard stance on this because I just don't. Again, I've never owned a gun. I've never really been around guns that much. So I would say right now, and I think majority of the time, as these shootings happen, I think there should be some type of there should be some type of either people have been talking about it, kind of just a longer time to be able to get a gun.
Okay. So you're in the camp of we just need to make it a little bit, there's got to be more friction.
I think there needs to be a starting point. I don't think that, and I don't think a starting point for gun control where it's impossible to get a gun, because I think there are 2 sides to this that I agree with certain parts of both. But I do think that with a lot of the population, I don't think it's right that this Salvador, I think his name's Salvador Ramos or whatever.
It doesn't matter what his name is.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Real
But
piece of shit.
That, and the other guy, I don't know what his name is, but that he could just get a gun so quickly at such a young age without even just a small waiting period of well, we need you to go through, I don't know what would help, to be honest.
Right.
You go in and you proved, I don't know, it's just some type of waiting period. That's what I've heard, and I agree with that. I think that should be something that is put in place, because I don't and I'm sure you guys probably agree to a point. Like, I don't think that, and I don't want to speak for you, but I don't think people getting a gun right out of the shop just like that is right. I don't think that at a young age like that.
Yeah. I mean,
Kids don't.
I agree.
18 is not, in my opinion, someone, especially guys. Like, we're not gonna have like a. And again, like, look at who's doing these shootings. It's not women. It's young men. Like, we're not developed totally. Like, I don't think we should be able to get a gun and just be like, here's a weapon. It's so much responsibility with that. It's not like going and getting a car.
No.
It's not like going and getting.
Yeah.
A car is dangerous. Yes, you could kill people, but a gun, you can kill so many more people at once. Like, it's just such a different.
I mean, it depends.
True.
For sure.
Yeah, you can
like if
with a car.
Yeah, there have been people who have done it. Like they drive through crowds that.
True. Yes, that is a very good point.
But I agree with you. I mean, guns. Their sole goal, like their sole purpose, is like you can use them for defense,
right?
Hunting, target practice, as a hobby or whatever.
Right.
But guns were created to kill the enemy. It was a way to protect. I mean, really, I'm pretty sure guns were created in the era of the Comanches, because the Comanches were so ruthless with their arrows and with their horseback riding abilities that it was like impossible to defend yourself against them if they came and attacked you. And that's when the revolver was created.
I don't know the history.
At least the revolver, that sort of gun. And it was created in Texas by like a sheriff. And it totally changed the game. But it was for killing enemies. So I agree with you there. It's super dangerous. I feel that I love things. I'm a very, I love tangible goods, and I don't like waiting, right? So I feel the urge to be like, oh, I want to go buy my gun, and I want to go get it, and I want to get it now, and I want to take it home with me. I'm not against a waiting period, for sure. But in a lot of these situations, I don't think that waiting period is going to change too much. There are a few people where it'll change a lot, right?
Yeah.
They'll have to think about it, and it'll change everything.
That's why I'm saying it's a starting point.
Right.
I don't think it's like.
No, yeah.
It's something. It's like similar to the mask. It's similar to a vaccine. It's like we need to. The point is with this whole thing is we need to do something. Like this isn't like.
Well, it's
gonna go away.
So I want to share some interesting stats that I found.
Okay.
That I found them super interesting. Had no idea about these. Didn't even think about it really in terms of the context of the world. But out of 97 countries with data, the U.S. is 64th in frequency of mass shootings and 65th in murder rate. And the rates of mass shootings elsewhere are rising faster, right? To continue on that, 4 times as many per capita died in mass shootings in France as in the U.S., and 21 times in Norway. 21 times as many per capita died in Norway than in the U.S. And this guy, Andrew Follett, on Twitter, he goes on to say, although events in the U.S. tend to get the lion's share of media exposure, mass shootings are clearly a worldwide issue. The U.S. makes up about 1.15% of the world's mass shootings, while having almost 5% of the world's population. It's just something that I don't think.
It's interesting, yeah.
Right. I mean, we're not low on mass shootings. We're almost in the middle, right? But
is a mass shooting? I wonder what that's defined as. Like,
it's 3 or more. We talked about this last time on the podcast.
Okay.
But it's when you obviously it's terrible when you live in the country where these mass shootings are happening. but we have so much access to media that is click bound. Like it's all about getting. I'm not saying that these mass shootings should be happening whatsoever, but I think it's portrayed in a way that we're like so far off the deep end in these mass shootings that we're fucked, right? That we're like U.S. is so far gone that there's almost no way of helping it. I think that there's so many steps that we could take to making these better, but it's interesting to put it in perspective of the world, of where we are, right? Like I never expected us to be the least dangerous country, right?
Yeah.
But
no, I mean this data is really interesting. I mean, and like,
and the where it really hits home is this is happening in schools. Like me and Peter talked on the podcast last week. This should never ever happen in a school. And I mean, Peter came up with a good idea.
Because I'm the man.
It's pretty, like if you really want, if your goal is to protect schools, it's pretty obvious what you need to do, and that's fortify schools.
Because no one gets outraged over a shooting in Nashville, downtown Nashville. Like no one gets outraged over, like I barely heard about the Buffalo grocery store shooting.
Me
barely.
too. I barely heard it too.
really?
Yeah.
Like, but as soon as a school gets shot up, it's like goes straight to gun laws. It's like,
I mean, it goes to hysteria because children are dying, as it should.
well, I'm not
for sure.
Yeah.
And I know you're not trying to portray it that way. I was just
Yeah, but it's just the same cycle every single time of like a mass shooting happens.
What can we do about it? And then nothing's done about it.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I do agree that like we need to make it harder to get a gun, but if the main goal is to protect, like since the conversation always starts after a mass shooting in a school, like I think it is easier to make laws or to fortify schools rather than completely change like the Second Amendment.
Yeah,
not completely change it, obviously, but amend the Second Amendment in terms of make it harder. It's just going to be easier to fortify schools in counties and cities rather than make it harder to get guns nationwide. Like you're just going to have more agreeing people in cities to fortify schools in your city than you would to do it in the nation.
Yeah, and I mean,
But
I think like, again, this is not. I would love to do more research on like, what could be solutions on both sides of the, of this stance, or what could happen, like what people who really believe in having the right to get a gun right away, and like, and then also the people who are like totally like, let's get rid of guns, like, or just like the two sides. It feels like that's how it is right now with everything. Like everything's divided.
I was listening to something the other day that talks about high level politics versus low level politics. High level politics is really, you're very interested, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but you're very interested in the debate, right? You want to talk about issues. You want to get the whole thing out there, and there's going to be some agreements in some areas and disagreements in other areas, right? So with high-level politics, you have your overarching ideas, you have your views. Some of those views are in parallel with your opposition, right? Low-level politics is very pandering. It is, I'm on this side of the table, you're on that side of the table. There is a line here, we don't agree on anything, right? I think that as people have talked about. We fall into this trap of thinking that everybody is on the opposite side if they're on the other political spectrum of every issue, which is just not true. There's more that we agree with than that we disagree with in most cases.
Yeah, and I think going off of that, I don't agree with saying it's. I think we were also making this a Democratic Republican view
Issue.
too much. Like it's like, oh, that's a Republican view. Oh, that's a Democratic view. Oh, that's a conservative view. That's a liberal view. I think, and again, easier said than done to change the way we speak about issues. But I think in the media, and then it trickles down to people in general talking in conversations. Like
the problem is
this is us versus them, and that it's nailed.
Well, it's hard for us to change that narrative, right? But if we had someone who had political power, right, like a Biden or then our next president or people that are leading states or governors, Senate people that came out and said, I don't know everything, and took some fucking ownership, right?
And they wouldn't get elected.
Right. But if we had those, if we got that started, I think that you could start to see the shift much quicker. I mean, it's difficult. I could be totally off base because obviously what's working right now really works to get you elected.
Well, yeah, this is
which sucks.
I know the system makes it,
but I think it's pulling back from that. Like everyone's seeing. I didn't want Biden to get elected. I thought Trump had really terrible sides of him. Like he fucked up a lot of shit.
Both were absolutely garbage.
But it's ridiculous that we have two people going into their 80s that are running our country, that want to run our country.
Well,
like we need some new fucking life in the political spectrum.
This is something I wanted to bring up because I heard this, I mean, it's been floating around. I don't know.
I'll run for president.
No, just making it mandatory to vote. Because I don't think, and giving more emphasis on.
I don't think that helps anything.
For.
I don't think that helps anything because if you look at.
Because
if you look,
would it give
over
more,
the last two elections,
middle ground opinions rather than because I feel like the extreme sides vote.
The last two elections, we've had more people come out to vote than ever. Right?
I also think the voting process is just a bit too much.
Oh, it's ridiculous. In France, they just had elections. They knew who was elected the same day.
Well, no, not even that. Just like, have you guys ever voted in the primaries?
I haven't voted for anything except for the president.
Exactly.
Well, it should be as simple as getting an app on your phone. It can be the Vote app, right? You hire a couple of fucking people from Silicon Valley that are the best at data privacy or whatever you need, encryption, all of that stuff, and you make it an app on your phone, and then you don't make all of the laws and all of that stuff so legally written.
But then you vote whoever has the most money regardless.
That's not necessarily true. Because if you have a bunch of...
If you're the average person, say you go to work, you come home and watching the news, and you go to bed.
Yeah.
Okay? Average person. If I hear about Joe Thomas every single night on the news about his 3 best things, and I agree with him on his 3 best things because they're on a commercial before the 5:30 news every night.
Right.
Okay? So I see that every single day.
Yeah.
But then you have Andy Lewis over here who has no
Great
money.
Names.
Thank you. Has no money, but has some great ideas. Super young. Not super young, but younger. But no money. I won't hear any commercials about him. When I wake up the next morning to vote, I'm voting for Joe Thomas because he's been in my face the whole time. No, I like his 3 main points.
I do agree with that.
So it's like whoever has the most money to campaign is gonna win.
So I think one thing
that'd be an interesting stat to look up.
Yeah.
If they're when the last president won who had a less budget.
So one of the biggest problems, right, especially for the presidential elections, is that we have these tech companies that have so much access to so many people that they can literally control the elections. And they do it. Like during Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton, if you looked up Hillary Clinton, there were 3 results and they were all positive. If you looked up Donald Trump, there were 10 results, 5 of them were negative. Right? They are in full control of how many things are shown and what is shown. Like Google can put right there the autofill. Mm-hmm. That's what they're filling in 3 things. Those are all positive for Hillary. 5 of them out of the 8 or 10 are negative for Trump. Like that is essentially what Peter was talking about, but without the money, right? Same thing for Facebook. Facebook knows that what their demographic is. Their demographic is really left-leaning, right? If they send out a go vote notification to people that reminds them to go vote, that they know that they're bringing 85% of those people are going to be Democrats. So they have a huge control over the voting. I think something that's really simple that should be done and used to be done is we should have legitimate debates, not these soundbite debates where you get 2 minutes to reply. Each state should have an elected or a podcaster, right? Or something like that, where they get to sit down with the 2 candidates and host a 3-hour debate. And maybe you don't listen to the whole thing, but it's out there. It gives people a much better perspective on what you are, who you are, and what your goals are. And you can do that in every state, no doubt. You could do that for governor for every fucking state. And you could absolutely do it for the president. Like if you got if you got 3 people, if you got the Green Party, the Republicans, and the Democrats all to debate, right, but on a long-term podcast where everyone's comfortable, we're just talking, having conversation about the world, but we're disagreeing on different issues, you would get a much better perspective on who the person is that you're electing for president. And there's no reason that we shouldn't be doing that. They used to do it. They used to air it on TV, and they would be 2 hours where the people would just be talking about what their goals are for the country and all these different things. And it was not, you didn't have to pay for it. It was just part of the government. Like that's how you got elected. Like, I don't know. There's just so much, like going back to the control, there's not that many people involved in the control of all this. Like the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, those people they elect the person that they want to run. That's a big part of it, right? Because I'm sure they find ways to get paid out big for all of it. So when they have so much control over this, they want the little sound bites. They want to be able to control the narrative as much as possible. They don't want people who are free thinking and really open to like talking about things out there, coming up with ideas and getting elected.
I think it'd be beneficial for the country to have an 6 to 8 year term limit for president. Because right now you have, like, because the parties are so divided, the new president spends the first year or 2 fighting against what the old president just spent the last 2 years to do.
Yeah.
And then he spends the 3rd year, like, actually doing something, unless we're in, like, a war or, like, pandemic or anything like that. And then his whole, like, second half of his 3rd year and then his whole 4th year is basically re-campaign. So it's like, what if we gave presidents 8 years?
Just straight up.
Just straight up. We elect them for 8 years. I think a lot more people would care about their vote. because it's like, oh shit, 8 years is a long time. That's a decade, basically.
Yeah.
So I think people would care a lot more, especially with like the age factor. You're not going to elect 78-year-olds, so they're going to be 86, and then also like they can actually get shit done. Like you spend the first year or two, if you disagree, working against what the other president did. You only get one term of 8 years, no rerunning as a president. Okay, so then you spend 6 years building up what you think is good.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Like,
I just wish that we would have presidents.
and then you're not wasting time.
Absolutely.
Campaigning.
Yeah. I just wish that we would have some people that were running for president that could win, that had some humility. You know, that were like,
but
willing.
you don't run for the most powerful job in the world if you have humility.
Yes, possibly, for sure. Like most likely. Yeah.
I mean,
agree.
you got to have some sort of.
But I just wish they would be like, okay, this president set these things in place before me. These are pretty good. Like we can adjust these a little bit and make them fit really what our narrative is, what we want to do, rather than being like, oh, that was all terrible, let's tear it all down. Right? Like being able to say, I mean, we should be able to look back on the history of the United States as a president. If you're running, and you should be able to say, I respect every fucking person that was president before me.
I think the narrative around Trump ruined that.
I agree. And
like I think
not just the narrative. I think he fucked himself over in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think he ruined it, and I think the narrative with social media around Trump ruined it. Because he went in the first like 60 days of office, didn't he tear down like 10 of Obama's things?
Probably.
Like literally without any cause or anything, just like, nah, we're done with that. I'm getting rid of that.
Well, when you're looking at some of the stuff that he does, a lot of it looked like it had a real understood purpose behind the decisions that he made.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like today, like with the Russia deal, with everything that's going on in Russia and Ukraine, Germany is so reliant on Russia because they decided to get rid of all their nuclear reactors. So now they're getting all of their energy, or 80% of their energy, or something crazy, from Russia. So they can't go against Russia. Right? And while Trump was president, he like there's a video of him talking to the leaders of Germany, saying like he was waving a white flag. He's like, "This is going to be you guys, because you're making yourself so reliant on a country that is not well understood or well, liked, or very. You don't have confidence in the future of Russia or what they're going to do. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I don't know why you would tie yourself to that. Like he had an understanding of those things that is, I think, super overlooked. And that's what I'm saying. Like if Biden could have come in and been like, Trump's stance on Russia, I fully agree with, right? I disagree in this realm, but I fully agree with his stance on Russia or whatever it is. But making the connection between the two presidents, being like, I'm here. He made a mistake in these areas. I agree with him in these areas. Let's work from here.
Yeah.
Right? Rather than being like, I don't like Trump. Nothing that he did was good. It's just like.
But Trump did the same thing with Obama.
I agree. I'm not saying that. That was so far in the past that I don't remember any of that. I wasn't into politics. I didn't vote in that election.
Yeah, I mean, I think bottom line you're saying is it's this like he said, she said thing where it's like I think going back to what Peter was saying about, well, that's like the system that, you kind of have to have, like we've kind of talked about it throughout this, is like you got to have money. You got to have the resources to get yourself to a position to get into these positions of power, you know, and like move yourself up. And I think it's, we should, you know, I mean, I'm not super, I don't have a ton of knowledge on like, you know,
You're
like,
in the perfect place.
I mean, like, I'm not afraid to admit, yeah, like all of us were kind of just like talking about this stuff, but it'd be interesting to look at like, well, what if we changed the way, you know, people ran? Like, what if we changed, because again, it's like, I was looking at the people in California running for, you know, the new senator, because Alex Padilla is like and I don't even know, I'll be honest, I don't even know what committees he's a part of, like what he's done, to be honest. And so I'm trying to research that. I'm trying to say, give my honest, like, okay, would I re-elect him or would I elect somebody else, you know? And like, I'm looking at some other options and I'm like, you know, how did this person get into this position? Like, how are they even running right now? And then I look at how much money, like I think on Ballotpedia, which is like this, you know, they have like information. I'm sure there are better places to go, but like it's just a general place to look at like who's running for these positions. And it's like these people have so much money behind their campaigns who are making it further. And then you look at their websites and it's like, it's just like copying and pasting like what people want right now. And it's like, well, there's no explanation on like, well, how, you know, it's the same thing. How are you going to do that? You know, or like, and there is one candidate that I was looking at. He's like he's a Republican. He's more conservative on the, like, you know, economic side. You know, he wants to really look at small business, build small business up, and like honestly, he had such a better view than so many of these people who were running as Democrats who like had a ton of money behind their campaign. And I was like, and I'll be honest, like I look at both sides running. Like I'm not just like looking just at Democrat or Republican, but this guy like had on his website an honest like look, I have kids.
Right.
Look, my parents were from Iran. Look, you know, this is my stance on immigration. This is my stance on education. But this is like in a condensed way, like how here's a hypothetical situation that what if this happened? You know, I think this could work. Whereas it's like these other people running are just building off of the emotion. And
what there really should be, there should be a way, and this is like right now, my thought process, there's a problem with this, but there should be a way where if you want to run, right, you don't have to get a backing, right? You sign up to run.
Like a backing, like a campaign team. And
right.
Like,
you sign up to run, and then you're inputted into this government run or whatever, which makes it, you know, there's problems there too. But it's part of the political setup where you have debates that are given out free to everybody. And then they're able to look over those people and make their decision from there. They're not, it's not broadcast. You're not on billboards. You're not on all of the new, like, paid advertisements.
Right.
You know what I mean? You should have to have some qualifications or whatever, and then you get put into a pool and somehow they're picked out rather than having billions or millions of dollars behind you,
right,
making this thing happen. Because like we go back to what Peter said, it's all about the money.
Yeah, I mean, that's who gets these spots are the people who have these campaigns because
And
like you're
lobbying
saying,
is
they have-
ridiculous. They should you
Yeah.
should have a set salary, and it should be tied to the growth of your economy, and with some externalities for special of it, like crazy mishaps or something like that. But you should be tied like a CEO is tied to the valuation of his company. Like if that company never makes it, if that company doesn't make money, that CEO doesn't make money. Right? If the CEO, they set up these CEO packages that if the value of the company gets to a certain point and is held there, the CEO is paid, and then it continues that way, right? These jobs should be set up in a way where if you create value for your city, for your state, for your country, you're rewarded as such, and big time, because like these should be some of the most important jobs. And you shouldn't be able to shut the whole economy down necessarily and continue getting paid.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know how you do initiate any of this.
Right, which is the problem, because all of this is just ideas.
Yeah.
Like you'd have to have someone that
This is
would come
basically like
in-
recreating the whole entire government.
Right. You would have to have someone that would come in that would be like, we're redoing all of this. As like you'd have to go in as president and be like, I'm gonna redo all of this.
Good luck with that.
and there's stuff that it's kind of scary to think about. There's stuff we're not gonna know as average, just people not within the government. There's so much
Who
that
killed JFK?
Lee Harvey Oswald.
we don't know. We're not gonna
John
know.
Wilkes Booth.
Is that the guy who killed Abraham Lincoln?
Yeah.
Actually, you know what's funny is Lee Harvey Oswald. That's the name that's often associated with Kennedy's assassination. He didn't even kill Kennedy. He killed Kennedy's killer.
He killed Kennedy's killer?
Yeah,
Who's Kennedy's
Well,
killer?
do you think that it was
I think.
an inside job? Do you think the government set it up?
And I don't know. It's like that's the thing. It's hard to know what is true when we're being all
I
we
mean, it
can
was.
see is like the what's being
Surface level.
reported from that time.
He
Like,
was
what-
killed by Lee Harvey Oswald. Never mind.
Peter's an idiot.
Yeah.
I don't even know. Like, I've heard that name. I've seen like videos and
Well,
but I didn't.
there's a
know.
lot of weird stuff involved in all of that. And dude, there's papers on all of that the government has that they are not releasing.
That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of stuff. We're
Like
never gonna
why
know.
wouldn't you release it? It was 50 years ago. Why would that not be released?
It
And then
feels-
all of this shit about, dude, have you seen all of the aliens, the unidentified UFOs?
I've only seen an article headline that's like a bunch. We have a lot more info on. They've been
But
tracking
from the Pentagon. The Pentagon is releasing this information talking about unidentified flying objects, right?
Yeah.
No one gives a fuck.
But UFOs?
Yeah,
Dude, don't say that.
but they don't. How much research have you done from the Pentagon papers that have come out talking about?
I don't care. All I care about is that aliens are real and they're admitting it. I think that's dope.
Right, but why? Like, as someone who would be interested in that, wouldn't you want to look into it and understand what it is?
Yeah, I would.
But you haven't, is what I'm saying, right?
Right.
Because they have released a lot of this information, unidentified crap, saying that, yep, there's stuff out there we don't know about, and it's been happening a lot.
Right.
And we haven't been telling you guys, but now we are.
Yeah, and I think the time I did look into it, it's funny. I'll admit, it's so hard not to follow that like media type lure of like when you see something pressing, and like the way it's advertised, it's just it's just like when we click on these articles, it's like they're designed like that,
Well,
and like so I
you're-
did research this UFO, kind of like the initial. I think it was
It was months ago.
Yeah, it was months ago. Remember that first?
Yeah. The first time that
Yeah.
the Pentagon was like, "Hey, here you go.
Wasn't that
Here's
during
some weird
COVID?
shit," and it felt like it was right in the middle of like everything falling apart.
Yeah. Yes, because remember, I think we talked on the phone or something about.
No, we talked about it a little bit, and we were like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, we were kind of like, well,
Like the world is coming to an end, and then the Pentagon's like, "Before you go."
we'll slide these out to the public now. Yeah, I mean,
So, Peter, you think that there are aliens?
I know there is aliens.
How do you know?
Seen one.
Oh yeah.
I am an alien.
Well, come on. Like, make the story fun.
Okay, so what are we talking? Aliens as life? Is that all it means? Or
I don't know
are
what
you?
else it would be?
Well, because a lot of people
Other
think
life.
aliens and they think like, oh, it's got to be human-like and
Oh no. Well, so in the
Intelligent
context that I'm talking
and-
about is if you believe in aliens and you see these Pentagon papers and you're like, yeah, of course, there's aliens here. How? Like, what are the aliens doing?
like there's absolutely life on other planets.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I don't.
But
that the
in the
question?
context of humanoid, like higher intelligence beings, what are your thoughts?
I think historically there might have been, but I think they might have killed themselves off.
What about you, Dylan?
Also, yeah, I'll finish.
What? Continue.
No, I don't know.
Okay, you didn't.
I just feel like if there's actually like an intelligent being out there, they would have contacted us if they were still alive.
So, I'll let Dylan. You go.
I mean, I think there is, based off of just based off of how much we know about other planets, like the fact that there is other life, like, or there's water on
There's a
Mars,
possibility,
there's-
like there's like planets
yeah,
in the
and the fact that there's so many
universe that are similar to our planet.
Mhm.
That makes you think
Well, not
there
just
can be
that,
life.
but like the galaxy, like just the expanse of
The vastness.
space and what we don't understand.
Yeah.
I think that really opens up my belief that there are other intelligent beings that I don't know enough about.
Right.
Obviously, other dimensions, how,
Yes.
how
You're
that would
getting
work,
into my
but, like-
territory.
but with, it's like I think there's a lot we still don't understand, and that I don't know if that's a solid base to believe that there's other intelligence, but I think that's my reasoning, is there's so much, one, that we don't understand, but also there is water on other planets that we found, and there's stuff that we are discovering, that, yeah, I think there is a possibility. That's what I believe. There is a possibility.
I definitely
I don't know if
believe
that
that
makes
there's a
sense.
possibility as well.
Yeah.
I also have you guys read A Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
I haven't.
Oh my god.
I've seen
dude.
Guardians of the Galaxy though.
Yeah, that's
have to.
also an awesome movie. But Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a fantastic book, and you should get it on Audible.
Wow.
Get it on Audible.
Okay.
It is so good. It's only 5.5 hours long. It is so.
When
It's
was it written?
so
it's
entertaining.
Like an older book, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I think the 80s. I have no idea, but it is so entertaining and fun to listen to, and really interesting ideas, right? And I don't want to spoil the book, right? But first off, it very well could be that what we're living in right now, actually, it's more likely that what
Don't
we're
say
living
it.
in right now
Don't
is a
say it.
simulation
Oh my gosh. All right, I'm going to talk to you guys later. I
No,
can't do
Peter.
this anymore.
Come on, we're in good conversation.
Devon and his simulation bullshit.
It's called simulation theory. But it's more likely that we're in a simulation than we are in the original, right?
I mean, that's something I've thought about with
Just based on pure numbers, more likely that we're in a simulation than the original. Not saying that we're not in the original.
What do you mean by the original?
Like the original form of life.
Okay.
It's more likely that we're in a simulation than we are in the original.
Okay.
Because there can be an infinite number of simulations.
Well, we're also just not the original form of life.
No, well, I'm talking about in the time period, right? Going, like, we started and then we've gone through to where we are today.
Evolution.
Yes, Peter, evolution. But evolution can be built into simulations, is what I'm trying to say. Right? So the very first, the original life, the original creation, the original being could have started, evolved, and then gotten to a certain point, and then created us inside of some organic computer or a regular computer, right? And then set it up to where we start, evolve, and then are to where we are right now. Like, it's more likely that that is the situation than we were the original that had the whole thing and evolved. Just based on numbers, because there can be an infinite number of simulations. Right? So if you get into that, super weird, and can talk to all of these ideas of different unidentified things within our world, right? Because this could be a simulation, and those could be glitches where they're trying to check on us or whatever, right? Doing for research purposes. And having those, or it could even be a teenage kid, right? A teenage being that is rebellious and is trying to mess with people or mess with things, and is like, I'm going to go pop over and freak out some people, right? Like, that could be a very real possibility.
And it could.
And then on another thing that could be possible is that we are a three-dimensional being living in a four-dimensional, like three-dimensional world, but with time, which would be the fourth dimension. And there are...
Not if we're in the multiverse.
Okay. There can be so many other dimensions built into us, right? So we can't really see we can't see one dimension. We can kind of see two dimensions. We understand the ideas of two dimensions, right? But you can't really see two dimensions because there's no dimension to it. So we can't physically see it. We can't physically interact with it, right? Mm-hmm. We're in the third dimension. There could be something in the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. There could be things in all of those dimensions that are interacting within the same space as us without us even knowing, because we can't see up a dimension or down a dimension. So how would we ever know if something was in the fifth dimension, a being in the fifth dimension, without, and just in our space? Like, they could be in here right now, and we would never know.
I'm just curious, have you learned anything about, like, how does it work to, or, with these dimensions, like, have there been any, like, ideas of, like, how we could see, or, like,
I don't know.
How,
I don't think that there's any, like, dimensions are a theory.
right.
Right? Our dimension is a proven theory because we have height, width, depth, whatever.
Right.
Right? So there's three dimensions. if you throw time in there, there's a fourth dimension that you could argue that we're living in. We're living in 4-dimensional world because we have time. But if you get into the fifth dimension, you're saying that there's another dimension, part of this universe that we have no idea about. And I'm not sure.
I know, and
I haven't looked into it, but I'm not sure that there are any solid theories that are agreed upon about what that fifth, sixth, seventh dimension would look like.
Yeah, and this is we're all just gonna have to watch Interstellar. Just
Dude,
couple times.
Arrival.
Oh my God, Arrival.
What a movie. Have you seen
that,
Arrival, Peter?
No.
Oh man,
Dude.
we gotta watch that.
Have you watched the Stranger Things?
Katie and I just watched first 3 episodes today.
Of the fourth season?
The new season, yeah.
Holy shit, is it dark?
I'm not
Charlie.
caught up,
I
I
mean,
know.
Peter hasn't seen it.
It's very dark.
It is
the first 3.
so dark.
Yeah. I mean, the
I
first
really
opening
need to see
scene
it, I know.
The opening scene is so dark.
is very and just
Unfortunate. Let's just say unfortunate. In terms
it's
of
just
timing.
like, oh man. At any time, that's gonna make you feel something. I didn't even think of it.
but like
I
even
wouldn't have thought of it if they didn't put that disclaimer. Wouldn't have thought of it.
probably not. We don't want to give it up to Peter.
Yeah.
Or to Dylan. Good Christ, dude. But yes, a ridiculously good show and so dark. Either one of you have any topics that you want to talk about for a minate?
How important sleep is. Sorry, Dylan, what were you gonna say?
Peter wants to run away. Look at him with his hood up. He's ready to go.
I just haven't slept much.
I think we're cooking with gas though, right now. I'm having fun. We might invite Peter out.
Calling everyone.
I'm about to give up, dude. We might invite Dylan on to the Wednesday podcast.
Oh yeah?
If you're gonna be here.
Yeah, I'll be here Wednesday. It's up to you guys. You guys.
We could have I'm down to have a guest again.
Your platform.
I got no qualms.
Peter's got no qualms. Really, at this point, this podcast is just a reason for me and Peter to talk.
And I'm about to quit it. I'm about to quit.
The whole podcast?
Yeah, I'm not looking to talk to you anymore, I don't think.
Peter, no, but you love me.
That's right. I'm joking.
Peter might be getting a little bit sick of me.
My immune system's broken down, dude. I told you.
I know. I'm sorry. What were you going to say, Dylan?
In sports news, Boston Celtics just beat the Miami Heat in Game 7.
Okay, well, quite frankly, I have zero opinions on that.
I'm so out of.
But
that's fair. I just wanted to bring my segment. I got it in.
I'll help
Continue.
you. I'll help you. Champions League final.
Didn't watch it.
Didn't watch it either.
I didn't. I only watched basically highlights.
You watched the highlights?
Yeah.
So.
I didn't really care about those.
Real Madrid won, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of Real Madrid, so.
I'm not a fan of either one of those teams. Yeah. I don't like Liverpool. And I don't like
I'm
Real
glad
Madrid.
They lost. I'm glad Liverpool lost.
You're glad Liverpool lost?
Yeah, because that's dope that they were trying to go for the title and Champions League.
And
they lost both of them.
I think
in the same week.
Yeah, it's great.
But I really like Klopp. I mean, I don't know how many people can.
Jurgen
Klopp. I think he's such a freaking passionate coach, but I think the biggest thing is he brings the best out of players. It's hard to see coaches now not just buying a bunch of players and already have the talent and build off of that. He seems to. I feel like it's similar to Bill Belichick with the Patriots.
What are your thoughts on?
Because I don't know, Peter. Do you know? I don't know. I feel like Bill Belichick was really good at that. Like bringing out the best in like these players that you're like, who the hell's that?
I think it's culture. I think their culture is outstanding for both Belichick and Klopp. I think they're great at just developing and maintaining and establishing a culture.
That's a good point.
And so I think that is what we see as bringing out the best. Okay. But behind the scenes, I think it's a good culture.
What do you think? What are your thoughts on Pep Guardiola?
I mean, I'm a huge fan of,
because he's one of those guys that has ridiculous access to capital.
Right.
I mean, he can buy. I mean, he's buying. What's his name?
Erling Haaland.
Yeah, Haaland, and he. But if you look at him, like the way he coaches, the passion in his coaching, the deep understanding of soccer, and like when you listen to some of the people that have played under him, the amount of belief that they have in him. Like, that's where you get into a position. Like, he's got the money and the passion.
Right.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
And that's why Man City's been so successful. Like, obviously, they've lost a lot of things, but they're always up there.
Right.
And just like, I remember watching, have you watched Take the Ball, Pass the Ball?
Oh,
it's a documentary about
it's about Barcelona.
Barca.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it on Netflix, but I haven't.
One of the players, I mean, it's not the greatest documentary, but one of the players in that documentary says, if Pep told me to go jump off of the top of the stadium, I would do it because there would be a bigger reason for it.
Damn.
And like the belief, in what his ideas are and how he portrays that to all of these players. Because you don't have very many players that are like upset playing under Pep Guardiola.
Right, because he tends to draw the or the people who play with him consistently play for him. Even if they're on the team, they may not get the time, but I feel like they have the same mentality of they have a passion for finding a way to win more than and like finding a way to like get so good at this game, and like I think like for instance De Bruyne, like I think he has this mentality where Pep Guardiola has like literally come in and taken these players like him and given them like they probably even him, even though he's like so talented and so accomplished, it's like he probably still, like you're saying, has that like utmost respect for Pep Guardiola because he's probably like, I mean, this guy understands this so well.
Yeah.
And, but I think it's like him at Barcelona too. I think he had such a good group of players, but again, he is just so tactically like smart that I don't think the players question it because they've seen time and time again that
it's successful.
His, the way he coaches works, and it's unique.
Yeah.
I think Klopp, on the other hand, is very like, I don't know if he has like strong. I mean, but that's the total argument. I feel like I've heard a lot of people say is like Pep Guardiola versus Klopp. It's like Pep has this tactical like genius, and then Klopp is like you're saying, like he has like the culture and the passion in that way where he brings out like this drive for the city, drive for the fans, for the.
He's a great coach.
Yeah.
And then Pep is like an exceptional coach.
Yeah, I think Pep.
I wonder.
Pep has it.
I think coach and manager is not interchangeable.
That's fair. I guess I
think Klopp's a better manager than Pep, and Pep's a better coach than Klopp.
Because I think what you're saying too is like that tactical side too. Coaching, I think, comes with a little more of like, well, what are the actual? It's almost like chess. What are the moves that we're doing here? Whereas managing is like, how are we unifying and like literally managing a group of people, like a.
Is that how you would define managing in the soccer sense, Peter?
Yeah, I would do like managing is more culture, managing in-game scenarios, adjustments, substitutions. I haven't always agreed with Pep substituting,
Really?
except in the last game of the Premier League season. What a genius!
Oh my god, dude!
That was amazing. I
dude,
watched that.
To have them down 2-0, and then
Yeah.
come back and win 3-2.
Yeah.
I mean, what a fucking way to win the Prem.
Yeah.
And like the passion that you saw in those people when they fucking were coming back, dude. It was like when they scored, that's when I saw some leadership from Kevin De Bruyne that he's a captain most games, but you don't see it. You don't see that side, especially as a viewer, very often. Like if you're on the team, I'm sure you feel it a lot. But like in that game, they got scored on the second goal, and Kevin's like fucking getting into guys like, let's fucking go. Like, come on, we can pick it up. Mm-hmm. And then to come back and win 3-2 and win. Did you see what's that guy's name? The one that's stupid fast, the outside back.
Kyle Walker.
Kyle Walker.
Oh yeah.
He sprinted from the bench all the way down to where they were celebrating, like, and jumped, like, was getting all the fans, like, dude, just all of their, like, every player was just like fucking like wanted to jump out of their own skin because they were celebrating so aggressively.
Yeah, and I think most teams would.
I'm sure, but in a game like that, when you're down 2-0 and you come back to win, that's got to be the best feeling in the fucking world, right? Yeah. Because like you couldn't want any more out of like proving your season in the Prem, right? Because no matter what your season has, it's going to have ups and downs. Like no matter who you are, no matter what team you are, you're going to have downs. And to be in the last game, the game where you can win it and have such a down and then be like, fuck it, we're going to make it a win and do that, dude. That's like, I can't imagine that there's a better way to win the Prem.
I know that's one of the big history points in the Premier League for sure. Like that.
It's like, what the like,
that was amazing.
So fun. Like that's what makes soccer so fucking amazing.
Yeah.
That's part of it. Right?
Yeah, that's why we love sports. It's so unpredictable, which gives you that like
Is there a sport that has the unpredictability factor of soccer? Like a big name sport?
Cricket.
Okay, big name, not in India.
Well, cricket's
curling.
Good.
Okay, big name.
It's an Olympic sport.
But like football, right? Basketball. I feel like you go into most games, you know who's going to win. And that's true for soccer as well, but you get these fucking wild upsets. Does that happen in football and basketball as much? Because I don't watch it.
It depends. I think it's like that's hard to say.
Or is soccer just the greatest sport in the world because of the culture that it's been built around in Europe and South America and those other countries where there's such a overwhelming passion that it's so pervasive around the world, and that's what makes it like the greatest game?
I think there are multiple factors. I think the fact that it takes a ball, like it just takes a ball to unite a group of people. Whereas, football, it could with football, but I think,
but football, I feel like
you have to know there.
It's almost more complicated, but also simpler, right? Because football, like you have one guy who's distributing the ball to a couple of guys that are just running routes, and then you do that again, and you do that again. Which I guess is similar to soccer.
I mean, yeah,
when
it's
you
just
think
like
about it.
getting the ball to a certain point.
But it's just constantly like it's just so fluid. And it's difficult to score. It's not like basketball where you see 80 to 100 points in a game on each side. And it's like you're waiting for 1 or 2 goals, hopefully.
Golf is that unpredictable.
That's true.
Do you guys know that I read in, I think it was like this article about kind of how football started. And it was actually, I think it was a game that, this is going to have to, actually no fact check on this podcast, but like, I think
we
it was
don't do
Native
it.
Americans that originally were playing like the game at the core, and then Ivy League schools took that game basically and kind of enhanced it. And I'm pretty sure though that it was like invented through the Native American community, which is interesting to think about, you know?
I'm pretty sure football was created as a proxy to war. Right? Because, like, war is deadly. There's lots of casualties. If you can fight your opponent without having all those casualties, right, and come out having a victor, I think that would be a more ideal way of battling. But I heard something similar to that, but saying that it was a proxy to war is what created it.
We should look this up.
Yeah.
I just want to see what
I think that
where I got that.
I think that we've made our due with today's episode.
Yeah.
Would you agree, Peter?
Yeah.
Peter's ready to go. Thank you guys for listening to episode 17. We're making our way up there. Soon we're gonna be at 50, and we're gonna have no one listening still. But that's okay, because we're having fun talking. Have a great day, evening, night.
I'm going to
Subscribe,
bed.
Get
like,
some sleep.
get some sleep, and follow us on the social channels if you so like.
MySpace, baby. MySpace.
Follow Peter's Peter Byrne Performance, right?
Yeah,
Follow his Peter Byrne Performance page.
Posted,
Dylan,
posted
do you have
a
any?
great thing on injuries last Friday.
Yes,
Super informative.
and bone density, which is very interesting.
Well, Fridays was very informative.
Yeah. Dylan, do you have anything that you'd like to plug?
I mean, I just have my main Instagram channel, which is Dylan.Chant. But I just post projects I'm working on.
Dylan's very into film, photography, videography, documentary. So he posts that sort of stuff on there.
Yeah.
Relatively infrequently, but that's okay.
You know, I choose to
So maybe
post
on
when
the
I have
next
something
episode,
important.
maybe on the next episode we'll get a little bit more into
Some of that.
film, right? But thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.